episode number 158 with Mike and Carlos. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. This week we've got Mike and Carlos. Carlos is staying down in Oceanside with Mike and his niece, and he's hanging his hat there for a little bit. He's going to take her up this afternoon to see Venice Beach and Santa Monica and Malibu, and she's hoping to catch a glimpse of Taylor Swift, I think. But anyhow, what happened with this episode, I forgot to push the record button until about 30 minutes into it. So you basically missed a little bit of talk of me, Mike, and Carlos shooting the breeze, but there's still over an hour. After that, we go into Bitcoin and strategy and all that. I'm also should mention I'm kind of front loading these episodes. So next week we'll announce the winner of the Zach Elwood video series. So not enough time has gone by because I'm recording these. Although in my time, this is kind of the world of podcasting. In my time, it's only been 2 days, but in your guys' time, this will have been 2 weeks. So I got to remember that. Anyways, without further ado, we're going to go into Mike and Carlos.
I don't know. And because of that, I'm doing a lot of trading. And so for me, the big problem not too long ago was the high transaction fees. And that has come down a lot over the last month or so. Yeah. So that's good for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun game. I like it. I think I'm going to buy a little bit more Bitcoin Cash here. And it's not anything I read or anything like that. It's just I've been using it to take money on and off. And it's faster than Bitcoin. And it's very easy. So I can see the usefulness of Bitcoin Cash. I think I'm going to invest a little bit in that. Maybe I'll get like half of one or something. I've got like I don't know, a couple $100 in Bitcoin Cash right now, but I think I'm going to
see. I should probably do that too, because that's how I use it. I've noticed, and I've seen like Ben Reasons and a few other people online mention this about how some of these U.S. facing poker sites will kind of manipulate the Bitcoin a bit, where when you are depositing, it's pretty instant, but when you're cashing out, it could take between one, and in my experience, is taking between 1 to upwards of 3 or 4 days,
yes,
depending on where the market is moving. And so if Bitcoin Cash is just as instant with withdrawals as it is deposits, then that's something that would interest me.
You know what? I noticed that. I took off, I transferred some Bitcoin Cash from Coinbase to Bovada to bet on the Super Bowl. And then after the Super Bowl, I moved it out. So moving it onto Bovada took, 30 seconds. And then moving it off, they sent a little note saying, now I couldn't use Bitcoin Cash anymore. I could only withdraw using Bitcoin. And they said it would take 48 hours. I'm all, son of a bitch.
Look at this.
Because the market's up right now. You don't want to pay me. Is that what it is? Like, what the hell?
That's some bullshit, man.
Right?
See, this is... Okay, now I'm pissed.
They're definitely manipulating the markets. I remember Mark Alioto talking about that about a year ago. It was just before the WSOP last year, and he was like, "Man, these sites they are totally playing the market. They won't cash you out when they don't want to. They want to wait for that price." I was like, "Oh, he's right."
Yeah, that threw me off. I did a cash out right when this is the other way I'm getting Bitcoin, is by winning at poker and cashing out into Bitcoin. So even though I'm not working right now, so I'm not getting it that way, but I what do you call it? I guess requested a withdrawal right around the time when Bitcoin it got down to like 6K not too long ago, and they kind of waited for like 3 days, and I think it was up to like 8K by the time they cashed it out. So I actually got less Bitcoin for the dollar amount I cashed out at the time, which I understand that they're playing the game, but that kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping to get it at the 6K price, but
nobody knows what the. It's not like they've figured out exactly how the market works here either. I'm sure there's days where if you actually did stall it for 24 hours, they'd be losing a lot of money.
Yeah,
I think
what I mean. Like it's just I don't know. I think it's just yeah. No, I don't know.
I think they're pretty savvy.
I bet they have at least a couple of guys there watching the graphs.
Where does it start, Carlos? First, if you start questioning the online poker world, then you start questioning the government, the police. It just never ends.
You have the order. You have the order of those things backwards.
Okay.
Like I've long known that the system is corrupt. I'm just hoping that there's some honor still left in the unregulated poker sites.
Fair enough.
Well, I got a couple of hands if you guys want to do some strat.
Yep.
I'll do one hand.
Oh, you do? Nice. Okay.
Sorry, I got a shower before I pick up my son and everything. So.
Right on. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with strategy. You want to start shipping tournaments? Tournament Poker Edge, or TPE as it's known in the biz, if you fancy. Tournament Poker Edge is the best training site out there for tournaments. If you're serious about getting better at poker, this will be the best thing you've ever done for your tournament game. TPE. Check out the forums. Watch the free training videos. They have over 10 hours of free training videos to watch. Start with those and just devour them. When you sign up, use the code HUP month, HUP quarter, or HUP year. You will get a discount. You will SYSC. Save yourself some cash. Tournament Poker Edge, the best tournament training site ever. Okay. I've got one. This one's from 6-4 Spades. I was at it. This was 2 or 3 nights ago. I made a final table, and we're down to 3-handed. Okay. Blind levels are 3K, 6K with a 600 ante. So 3-handed. Before we start, there's already 10K, 10,800 in the pot. We're on the button. We've got 105K, which is 17 and a half big blinds. Small blind has 22 big blinds, and the big blind has 29 big blinds. So our effective stacks are going to be 105K at 17 and a half big blinds. We've got 8-9 of hearts on the button. 3-handed, 17 bigs effective. What are you guys doing with this?
I am min raising.
Okay. Mike?
I'll do whatever Carlos does. I don't know how to play tournaments anymore, Steve. I really don't. I'm lost. God, it would suck to have to raise fold to with 8-9 suited, such a pretty hand. But I guess shoving is just not enough a return on your. It's only you're getting 10% to your stack. Maybe it's a little more.
It's about 10%. The pot is 10,800. We got 105K. So yeah.
Well, raising is not a shove. It's plus EV. I'm pretty sure. Would you agree with that, or?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you're talking about reasons of balance. Of course, if you just shove here, it's going to be. I don't know. I kind of like the limp too, where you can depending on the competition, they're not going to. Well, I guess that's a question, Steve. Which of these guys are either of these guys capable of shoving the King 6 suited? Some of the stuff maybe they're supposed to shove.
The small blind so far in this, we've been 3-handed now for about 10 hands. And the small blind has never called when I've raised on the button. I've raised almost every single button, and he's never called. He's always folded. The big blind is defending about 50%. But as far as him reshipping with like a king 6 or something, I think that's unlikely. I think they're going to need something like at least a decent ace.
Okay, well, if he's only shoving with 10 to 15% of the deck, then I'm less worried about. I'm less likely just to shove here, and more like just a min raise or limp. So yeah, I like the min raise.
Okay. Yeah, looking at the chart here, 8-9 suited is a profitable shove from the button with 17 bigs, but I don't know. Like once especially when you start getting shorthanded and stuff, I kind of tend to not look at the charts as much and more go by feel and patterns I picked up and stuff. So especially
if you're not using a dynamic chart that takes into the account that there's less antes on the table.
Right.
That could screw up the ranges.
It does change them quite a bit.
Actually, yeah, that's true. I didn't even think of that. You're right. Yeah. Okay. Good point. Okay. Yeah, I like the min rate. I think what I need to do is as the blinds get bigger and as the as you get shorter and shorter, I think I need to raise smaller. I continue to still do like the 2.5 to 3x, even when we're shorthanded, and I think min raises at that point when everyone's relatively short. I mean, there's not a guy here that has more than 30 big blinds. I think I need to adjust to the min raise once you start getting blind levels like this. I make it 16,666, so that's like 2.5x, I think, or 2.3. All right. Small blind complies and he folds, and the big blind calls. So we've got 38K in the pot. We've got 89K behind, so that's our effective stack. And the flop is, so we got 8-9 of hearts, and the flop is 6 of spades, 7 of spades, 7 of hearts. And the big blind checks.
I am betting. Yeah, I'm betting probably pretty small. Happy to get it in on this flop. Also happy to see turns. There's a lot of turns that are good for you. I'm probably repping spades if they come anyway. So I'm probably betting something. I'm probably betting small again on this flop, maybe like 35, 40%.
Okay, so under 30K, we're betting like 17, something like that, 18, 16.
You said the pot's 30K. It should be bigger than that. If you bet
38K.
16. Oh, 38K.
Yeah, so I'm betting like maybe 14, somewhere in there.
Okay.
You said you're happy to get in. If you're going to call a shove, anyways, I might make it bigger here, just to keep him from shoving. That probably reduces some of the hands he might kind of bluff shove if for some reason he's got a couple overs. If you're calling anyways, I think if you bet 2/3 pot here, we're assuming he doesn't have an overpair very infrequently, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was my first instinct anyway. I don't know if it's right. Just betting bigger, and I would think that would reduce the chances of him. He's still probably going to shove a 7 or 6, which you're calling anyways. And if you do there, you're not totally unhappy. You got 10 plus outs.
Right.
Yeah. I bet bigger. I think it reduces the chance of you having a call off with 9 high against if for some reason this guy is capable of, or would shove king high or ace high here, with backdoor flush or something. Some players might do that. So.
Yeah, I was thinking he could.
Steve has identified as not. I was just going to say the guy who's not 3-bet shoving enough pre-flop is probably not check shoving the flop as a bluff that often either. I think I may get called wider by like ace or king high, But I'm okay with that because I'm playing the barrel off, and he'll fold those by the river, I think. Maybe not the ace, but probably the king. So if I can induce a light call from king high here, I kind of want to do that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I felt a little, once we got to the flop, I thought, okay, well, if we're going to raise with 8, 9 of hearts here, this is about as good a flop as we can get, 6, 7, 7 with one heart, you know?
Right.
So I thought, okay, at this point, we got 40K in the pot, we got 90K behind, you know, like a little over 2 to 1 stacked a pot. We can never fold this hand, right?
Nope.
I think the only way we could fold is if we check back here and then the turn just comes like an ace or something and he fires and there's no heart. I don't know.
Well, I don't mind checking back here and shoving over his turn bet. I mean, but if he bets, you know, shoves the turn, you got to fold the 9 high. I don't know if that's an option we would consider here. Checking back here to shove over his bet on the turn.
Yeah, I can see some merit to that. Yeah, I can see some merit to that. But I think I like the flop bet because, like you say, he's defending like 50% of hands. He's probably overfolding that on this type of board. Like, he doesn't sound like the type that's gonna like shove this flop with like queen jack or something. And even with like a 6, I would expect him to just call. He doesn't. And I could be wrong, but he doesn't strike me as like that aggressive. So I think if he comes over the top, he's pretty strong. And on the flop, we still have enough equity to call, I think. But yeah, like Mike said, if he somehow decides to just open shove the turn, if we check back the flop, now we don't have enough equity to call at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I end up betting 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. So I bet a little bit more than half pot, and he folds. So my thought on this one was like, he probably just didn't have it. He probably had ace 5 or something, and he just dropped it. But
not even that good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I wondered what.
Well, I was just about to say it almost, not that it, of course it matters, but he's going to be folding to a C bet here on top of everything else a lot.
A lot, yeah.
So yeah.
And he's probably not that sensitive to sizing, so that's why I like the smaller bet to give me a good price on my bluffs, because I'm going to be raising pretty aggressively here pre-flop, and I'm going to be c-betting a lot of flops. So usually I'm going to miss this board, and so when I do, I want to be able to bluff here for like 14 as opposed to 23.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got.
What do you do with what's the number of blinds here? You're just going to shove. We had 17. Did you say to start the hand?
17 and a half.
I would shove
14 bigs. You shove.
I would shove 17 with some hands. Just not this one. Like if I had like 6s, I would open shove, something like that.
Yeah.
I would need to be probably around like 12 before I just open shove full range. Yeah. And maybe not even 12, given that they're also short. Like, for example, in cases where I have 12 bigs and the guys behind have like 70, then I'm completely happy shoving aces, but not when they have like 22. And so because I don't feel comfortable shoving aces at that point, I may have some raised folds as well as using aces as a raised call. I'm only shoving my full range once I get to a stack size where I think I can get called by worse with the value hands in that range. So 12 is normally where I would draw the line, but here that's not a short stack relative to these other ones. Not like super short. It's not a micro stack where you're going to get snap called. So, man, here maybe 8. Maybe I need to get down to like 8 before I just start open shoving everything. Like I can see, especially with these guys being tight, I can see it being profitable. Well, let's say 10. 8 seems weird. So like with 12, I think we can min raise and the big blind calls, and then we can c bet for like 2 bigs. And if that fails, I think we still have some shot in this game with like 8 or 9 bigs left. So I don't I don't think we necessarily have to shove 12 bigs here like I normally would. And I'm guessing that pre-flop fold equity is probably still pretty good. Like if you're shoving 8 bigs, these guys probably aren't calling you correctly. So that stack size is still you have more fold equity than you would think, and your shoves are going to be more plus EV because of that. So I think you can kind of, if you have to raise and then c-bet off of 12 bigs and not win that pot, I think you can get back to 12 pretty easily, just getting like 2 shoves through on these guys pretty often.
Yeah. I'm shoving any pair there with 17 bigs. I might shove deuces.
No, I think you need to be inducing with what would be your min raise kind of to induce, like 7s plus,
7s, yeah,
ace 10 off plus,
yeah, something like that. And I would basically have that inducing range. I would have the hands just below that would just be open shoves, and then anything worse than that would be raised folds. And so a hand like 9-8 suited makes a really good raised fold candidate because it actually plays well post flop, whereas those hands I'm open shoving like 5s don't play that well post flop.
Yeah. Okay.
Should we ask? I know Andrew. Well, Carlos talked about this on the Thinking Poker podcast, but I'd be curious, Steve, if we ask him a little about the coaching. Not everyone who listens to this one listens to the Andrew. Well, we have, we got a different crew. You get someone, the homeless crew, actually the homeless crowd, the jailhouse crowd likes our show, Steve.
Yes, they do.
They empathize with. They know I'm going to end up there one day.
So it's like
get the bed warm for you, Mikey.
As I live on the edge here, you know what I mean?
It's like they're developing a pre-friendship so that by the time you get there, you already have a crew.
Yes.
Exactly. Andrew and Nate get there. They get the tea and crumpets crowd, man. Steve, you and I get the real people out there.
Yes.
The mental cases for sure. Yeah. The coaching that Mike is alluding to is I'm starting to get coaching from Ryan LaPlante.
Cool.
Some people may know him as Potential online.
Yeah.
And basically he's encouraging me to play a lot more hands than I'm used to. And so if any of your listeners have been following me on Twitter since the WSOP, they'll know that, for years I was kind of known as a pretty nitty guy in life, just financially, but also a nitty player. And after the main this year, I started kind of loosening that up, and I kind of started calling myself Carlooser. And
that's why you called it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carlooser Welch.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Carloose.
Yes.
So I went from Carlos to Carloose, and now Ryan LaPlante is turning me into Carlooser because he's got me playing like 40-30 as far as VPIP PFR, and
going from an 8-6 to 40-30 is quite a difference.
Yeah, so like in 2015, I was probably running like 15-10, and then I started getting a little bit better, and I started getting more reg type stats, which would be something maybe like 2015. And then right after the main, I'll say it probably jumped to around like 25-20. Okay. And now it's like 40-30.
Wow.
So that's a massive jump.
I play a 26-18-8, and I thought I was loose. That's insane.
That's pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
Right.
So Carloose, okay, that is poker related. I thought you meant you like drop your standards with women. Like it was no longer just the low hanging fruit. It was the fruit on the ground that had been already stepped on, and you
rolled over.
I was like, I didn't think. Yeah, I mean, you don't really need to go below the low hanging fruit, But anyways,
you know what, man? Everybody needs love sometimes. So
true.
And Carlos is the Boy Scout.
Right. But yeah, I guess I haven't kind of applied that much to this situation, but I guess in a way it could apply because in the past, I would probably just open shove a pretty standard range in this spot, which limited the number of hands I could play. But if I feel like I can still have a raise fold game, even down to around like 12 bigs, then if I'm doing that, I'm expecting it to get through a decent amount of the time. And if that's the case, my hand matters a lot less than it normally would. And I guess it makes sense. Like, I didn't think that way in the past, but if we're confident that this small blind is folding the vast majority of the time we're opening, and this big blind is only defending 50% of hands, then of course, those are just HUD stats, and that's not the exact, like the small blind isn't literally folding aces in this spot. No. But let's just say he is, and we're only getting called 50% of the time, then we can literally open any two here. With the price we're getting, that's a profitable bluff. And so, especially given that we also have fold equity on C-bets. So that's like a really exaggerated way of saying that you could probably open pretty wide here. And my guess is if Ryan was in this spot, he would probably be raised folding like king deuce off for like off of like, say, a 13 or 14 big blind stack.
Wow. And
that's something I would have never thought to do. And again, I'm just guessing. I don't know if he would do that or not, but against the opponent profiles that you've laid out, I can see the validity to that.
Yeah. I got one more from it's probably about 8 to 10 minutes later. Okay. You want to play online poker against a field of players that are terrible? I have a site for you, my friend. 64spades.com. It's like playing poker at a home game with a bunch of your buddies who are all drinking. I cannot think of a better game or a better deal. You can get rakeback. A portion of the money you gamble will get deposited back into your account. So you win on the tables and then you win on the rakeback. Sign up using the code in all caps, HUPOKER. Get your rakeback and come play with the fish. 64spades.com. Okay, one more. The level now is 4K, 8K. We're on the button again, same dynamic, same players.
Steve, can I just throw out an idea here? I'm a fountain of creativity, of course. I was thinking we need a new, like a standard Elliot Roe commercial where it's just, you come on with just terrifying, me screaming in the background with like dying, like the sound of like a slaughterhouse and dying animals and all that stuff. And then you just cut it short. Are you sick of tilting? And then this guy is, and then just more screaming, and then you ought to listen to Elliot Roe. Then we hear Elliot's beautiful, mellifluent voice.
There's water falling in the background.
Then you hear me sighing, something like that. Anyways, just an idea. Sorry.
I love it.
This guy's a certified genius.
He is. Damn. Okay, so we got, we're on the button. We've got 20 bigs. Small blind has 15 and big blind has 16. So we're the big stack at the table playing about 15 bigs effective. And the way the dynamic had been going, you know how you always talk about game flow, Mike, is I'd come to the conclusion here. I wrote down in my notes here that the small blind had yet to defend when he was in this spot and I was raising on the button. So a few rotations before, I had decided, F it, I'm raising any two on the button, except maybe like 8-3 and 7-2 or something, but I'm raising 95% of buttons here. So I've got 10-4 offsuit, and I raise on the button. The small blind again complies, and he folds, and the big blind calls. I raise to 18, 888, it's about 2.4 bigs. Probably should be doing min raising like I talked about earlier. But
can I stop here 1 second here, just quickly? This is because these stack sizes are probably pretty similar to what you see in your late in a initiation tournament, right? Or maybe a little more shallow.
Nope, this is right.
This is right. So I mean, finally, I'm just curious. I mean, what mistake do you think most players, I mean, this is speaking very generally, like make in these spots, not to close it out? Is it playing?
They fold too much. They don't defend the big blind enough.
Okay.
So with that being the case, I think Steve's strategy is perfect. Like he can go ahead and start going by Steve Looser now.
There we go.
Okay.
Steve Looser. Right on. Okay, I raise it up. The big blind defends, and we go to the flop. There's 44K in the pot. We have 117 effective between our stacks, so it's about almost 3-to-1 stack to pot ratio. And with 10-4 offsuit, we get a flop of Ace Queen 10. Big blind checks.
I'm probably betting. Like, do you have any information on his fold to C bet stats?
No, there's no HUDs on this.
Oh
site,
yeah,
so
that's right.
It's,
I guess it's been a while since you played, but just anecdotally, like, do you think you were getting a lot of C bets through?
There's no flush draw out there, right?
there is a diamond draw.
Okay.
We have before a diamond, so we have one blocker to it. But
I don't know. Against this player pool, the good thing is, I think Carlos meant that if you check back and call whatever his turn bet is, his river bluffing frequency is going to be pretty low, right?
I don't know.
So there's not the risk of folding the best hand here that often if you just check back. I mean, I think I'm betting here too, because I think he's only. I mean, if you fold to a flush draw, it's not the end of the world here, anyways. But I think it'd be nice to have the HUD information, like Carlos is saying, like his fold to C bet here would change what you do here. But yeah, I think checking back, especially with the backdoor diamond. If there's no backdoor diamond, I think I'm betting here every time, and I'm thinking with the backdoor diamond, maybe that puts a few more checkbacks in our range. Once again, me and Carlos is trying to think what would Ryan do, and I'm trying to think what would Mark would do.
Actually, it's so funny you say that, because I can remember maybe like 2 years ago, I was at Mark's house and I was playing a tournament on Twitch, and I had a very similar spot where at this time I had a leak in my game where I didn't see bet enough, and I pretty much always check back bottom pair, and I checked back bottom pair one time, and then a guy that I thought was pretty tight led into me on the turn, and I folded. And Mark jumped down my throat saying, like, why are you checking back the flop if you're going to fold the turn? If you don't think your hand is strong enough to call down with, then you shouldn't look at it as showdown value. You're basically looking at it as a 5-out bluff. Huh. And so he said, so since that day, I've been betting the flop with bottom pair a lot more than I used to because of what Mark said at the time. I'm guessing Ryan would be on board with betting here also, but I'm not sure on that. But I do feel like Mark probably bets his flop.
See, my thought was I like donk leading with like well, I guess this wouldn't be donk leading. This would be C betting. But I like doing it with bottom pair when it's a board of like I don't know 9-8-5 or something, or maybe like Jack 8-4. You know, one's like. But this one at Ace Queen 10, I feel like this more so. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is a bet. I figured with showdown value it was a check. But I could be wrong.
I guess my question is, are you calling two streets? If you check back flop and this guy bet twice, you probably call it the turn.
I'm calling the turn, probably not calling the river. Yeah,
and when you call the turn, and this is another issue I have with these hands, which you already identified, your bet sizing is too big. slightly too big pre-flop, and I think way too big post-flop.
Okay.
And part to partly because of your range. When your range is wide, your bet sizing needs to be smaller because you're going to have so many bluffs in your range that you need to give yourself a good price on those bluffs. So I'm probably min raising this hand pre-flop, and when this guy calls me, I'm probably betting like 40% of the pot or something, and I'm getting to the river for a much cheaper price than you are in this spot, and I'm benefiting from some sort of fold equity on this flop. Like, this guy doesn't strike me as a type to like call with a hand like 9-7 on this flop, or check. Well, I shouldn't say call, like use that as a bluff or something. Whereas if we check back, well, actually that's a bad example. Let's say like a Jack 7 or something like that. Like, I don't know if he like if we bet the flop, especially if we bet small, he may just call with that gutter. And if it goes check on the turn, I don't know if he's turned that into a bluff on the river. He may. I just don't know. And I've played against some people that you would be shocked at hands they are willing to fold for small C bets. And so I think I'm just going to go that route because I don't want to play a guessing game by checking. You know what it is? It's basically a blocking bet. Like, when I C-bet here, I'm C-betting small just so I don't have to call like a half pot bet when I check back the turn.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, if you check back here, I think you have to call the turn to most bets here.
Yeah, unless it's stupid big. Yeah.
I think that's Carl. But on the other hand, I don't know why I like this line. I do it probably more than other people. Because I would check back an ace here a lot. We haven't brought up that for purposes. So when you check back here, it's not like the guy's like, oh, he's got a third pair, I can, barrel him off it or anything. So a lot of his aces, he's probably shoving pre, first of all. I don't know if we brought that up, right?
That's a good point.
So if he leads turn and shoves, especially like any diamond, I kind of like shoving turn. If we check here, but and I don't know how often, like if you just call turn, I don't know how often he's bluffing river. Like at most queens, I think he's checking, and I just don't. Yeah, so I don't know. I think checking here and calling turn is okay, but just c betting is fine too. You lock it up if you're ahead.
Okay.
He's folding so frequently, but I agree with Carlos that this would be a perfect spot to. This is the standard spot where you just bet small because he's folding so frequently.
That's how I feel like both lines are fairly close in EV, and the main benefit to the line where you see bet the flop is you get to control the bet size. I think that's probably the main benefit here. But besides that, I don't have a super strong preference either way. Like, I feel like I'm going to be in an uncomfortable spot on the river no matter what we do. Or at least I guess uncomfortable is the right word. So, yeah, if I can get to, like, the main thing I want to do here is get the showdown, and I want to do it as cheaply as possible. And I think that's better accomplished if I'm controlling the bet size versus this other guy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I check, the big blind checks, and then I check behind. So with 10-4 offsuit, 10 of clubs, 4 of diamonds, the flop was ace of spades, queen of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, and the turn is the 4 of hearts. So we hit he checked a queen to start off. We just turned him. We now got 2 pair. We got 10-4 for 2 pair on ace queen 10-4 by the turn. Villain, he takes a little while. I remember this. He took a bit. If you have 15 seconds to act, he used up 9 of them, and then he bet 24K into a pot of 44.
Um,
I like the min click. I mean,
how much?
maybe that looks stronger than the shove, but
After he bets the 24K, we got 68 in the pot, and we got 94 behind affected.
So if you click it, it goes to 48. So that'll be half your stack.
Then we'd have a 1-to-1 stack to pot. We'd have 92 in the pot, and
no, it'd be you would after he calls if you're think he's gonna call, then he's
It's gonna be like 150, 160 in the pot because there's already like 60 something in the middle.
There's 44 to start. He bets 24. Okay. That makes 68 in the pot. If we click it back to 48, so that would be like 75. Yeah, you're right. It'd be
like 140 or something.
140, yeah.
And we'll have like 48 behind.
We'd have like 70-ish, I think. But yeah, it'd be like the stack to pot would be like half to.
We started with how much on this flop behind?
On the flop behind, we started with 117 behind 44 in the pot.
Okay, gotcha. So like half pot, maybe somewhere around there on the river if we do the click. I do feel like it looks stronger, but I don't know if the average player can do anything about that. Like if he has a queen, he's not folding.
Of course, there's obviously great merit in just shoving, taking it down, because as shallow as you are, this is a massive pot.
The benefit to shoving, I think, is if he has a hand, say like Jack 10, where he has the gutter, he may call if we shove turn. And if we click it, which looks strong, and then he just calls, and he ends up with nothing but third pair on the river, he may find a fold. And we don't have any information if this guy, like if he's bluffing turn, is he also going to like bluff shove river? We don't have that information. He seems pretty passive thus far, so I don't want to rely on him betting for me. So I think we have to raise turn, but yeah, the question is sizing. I think I like shove because he doesn't strike me as a type that's going to fold an ace or a queen and a 10 that has some type of draw with it. King 10, Jack 10,
Queen
10.
Jack.
I think he's got to fold those hands there. I disagree with that. I think 10x he's going to fold. Maybe even Queen X, because you've got aces in your range. He doesn't.
Yeah, but this goes to the line you told me, I think earlier today or late yesterday, about like relying on fish to like react when to understand what you're repping.
This is the fish who has a chance to win a tournament.
That's true.
Three-handed, so it's yeah. I mean,
it's probably also like a $5 buy-in or something,
right?
It was,
the only thing for ICM reasons, I guess, if the third stack had like three big blinds, you're just going to call here because he can't really get you in on the river unless he overshoves, and you want to. Well, actually, you have him covered anyways, right? So
yeah, so I'm more likely to shove in that case.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yes. But I don't know, not with a value hand though. I don't know. I want more chips to go into this pot when I have a value hand. I don't know. I feel like we have to raise, but I don't have a. I have a strong opinion that I like a shove, but I don't necessarily know if that's correct.
So do we ever just call here? What would be I guess nobody really likes that play.
I would if this guy was more aggressive, but everything we know about him so far is that he seems really passive, meaning that he's more likely to make calling mistakes than betting mistakes.
I'd agree with that.
So yeah.
What'd you do, Stevie?
Yeah, I don't know.
I end up calling. I took a while, and I just got the feeling if I raised, he was going to fold. And two pair heads up is a great hand, and I didn't want to push him off it. I thought maybe guys are right. Maybe maybe we should be just shoving here and locking it up. Don't give him a free draw with king queen that he may call off anyways if you shove. And
So
just get it in.
what is our river? Let's just assume he's shoving any river. Are we folding only to an ace, queen, king, or jack, and everything else we're calling with, including diamonds?
I may not fold nothing. if I check back, I mean, if I just call this turn, I'm doing it because I think he's bluffing here a decent amount of the time.
Right. Okay.
And if that's the case, I'm not folding if he bets again. That's the only reason I'm calling this turn, is to give myself an option to call the river, to give myself the opportunity to call the river as well.
Yeah, if he's not bluffing, then just calling here is a mistake. I agree with that. But I think if he's shoving the river, he probably has two pair hit his straight. But again, we don't know that. He might shove the missed flush draws as well. So you might have to call. You might have to call. Or he might just have one ace too. He could just have ace 3 or something, So
and if he has that, he's not folding if we shove turn. So basically what I do in these spots is I assume my opponents aren't good, which means they aren't balanced. And so that means trying to do something balanced in response to them is automatically a mistake. The whole argument against GTO play at small stakes. And so what I do instead is pick a read and stick to it. If I think this guy's aggressive, I'm calling. If I think he's passive, then I'm raising. And there's no middle. Because if there's a middle, if I'm unsure, that's kind of like admitting that this guy's balanced, which means I think he's good, which is generally a bad assumption at these stakes.
True.
I think if the king, jack, and diamonds come, I think you got to fold, because then you have straight and flush possibilities on two pairs. So you're adding a few more. That would be the only two cards, maybe king.
Those were
king,
the two
jack,
I was thinking of. Yeah, the king or the jack of diamonds.
But
the absolute worst cards of the deck.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I think the big thing is though. Yeah, player read here. Carlos thinks he's over calling rather than over bluffing for sure, and I agree with that. So that would make raising the turn the play. So what was the river card here, Stevie?
Okay, well, with 10-4 offsuit and a board of ace, queen, 10-4, we get a river deuce of diamonds. So the flush comes in. And straights he could have would be king, jack. Diamonds got there. We've got two pair. Villain tanks again. And then he bets out the same amount. He bets out 24K into a 92K pot. He leaves himself 70K behind, and it's on us.
I doubt at this stakes he's leveling you into making you think he's doing a really wimpy blocking bet, but he could.
Yeah, I feel like
it's weak ace or a queen.
I feel like we're beat here.
Really?
Mainly because this strikes me as the type of player that if he has something as weak as one pair, especially with a queen, he'd rather check call this river. And if we're beat, I think we're beat by an ace. And I agree with what you said earlier. I'm sorry. If we're ahead, I think, like if he's betting for value with a hand that we beat, I think it's more likely to be an ace than a queen. And I agree with what you said earlier that most of his aces just get it in pre.
Well, what's he doing? Is he betting this small with a flush is my point.
Yeah, I can see that because we don't look strong and he wants to get value. Okay. And he probably knows from his point of view, if he's sitting on the other end of this hand and the flush card comes in and somebody bets big, he's probably going to fold. So I'm guessing that if he has a flush, he's going to want to size it, make a size that he thinks somebody will be forced to call.
So you don't like the raise, obviously, if you think we're beat a lot, but you can't fold here, right? What are you getting, 4-1?
Yeah. This is a spot where curse a lot, and and I call knowing that I'm beat because I feel like I can't fold, and then I just hate myself for like the next 30 minutes. And the reason I feel like I can't fold is because I called the turn with the intention of folding the river. Calling the river, and so I'm calling turn thinking that this guy's going to bluff the river, and if he's that tight, then this is a great river for me to call on because it's a great bluff card for him. So I'm calling here, and in fact, I did this Sunday. I called in a spot where I knew I was beat, and then I hated myself for the next 30 minutes.
Productive.
So I think more often than not would be here, but yeah, I guess I'm calling.
Do you see any value in raising, Mike?
That was my first instinct. He's like he's nervous and he's got the. I mean, I guess with the flush draw out there, it's just he's gonna fold Queen X. I mean, he doesn't have that many aces. So I think that you can get called by worse here sometimes. Like I said, it's gonna be hard for him to fold an ace. But if we think he's raising most aces pre-flop,
see,
he just doesn't have. Yeah,
that's where I get stuck. I don't think that he's calling if we shove here. I think he folds an ace because as much as they love top pair, they are afraid of flushes even worse, especially when there's also straight draws on the board in a high pressure situation like this. So I think with the flush card exactly, I think he may be able to find a fold with a weak ace. But that read doesn't jive with the pre-flop read, which is we think he's shoving most aces. So I think we can get him off a queen here, but at the same time, I don't think he's betting a queen on the river. And anything better than one pair, I don't think he's folding.
So what'd you do, Steve?
I also tanked, and I thought, okay, well, I can never fold here because we got two pair, three-handed. You know, I mean, yeah, I couldn't fold, and then I was debating whether, like, is there any value in raising? And you know, I think if we just shove here, like you said, I think he's folding an ace if he had one to begin with. I think he's folding queens. I think he's only calling with hands that beat us. I mean, like, there's not too many worse two pair out there, you know.
Right.
Like, what are we really getting value from here by raising? I think we're just going to get called when we're beat, and the other 90% of the time he's just folding, which we beat anyways. So I flick in a call, and it's kind of ironic, Carlos, because you even called his hand about 15 minutes ago, and you didn't realize it, but he had Jack-7 offsuit.
Interesting.
Right? So he had a gut shot on the flop, he checked back. On the turn, he led with his gut shot. And then on the river, he led with his bluff.
Did he had a gut shot on? Oh yeah, it was Ace Queen 10. I was thinking this was Ace Queen. Okay.
Yeah. So any king, and he would have beat us. But yeah, I don't know.
His river bet
stepped somewhere in the hand, and maybe that was it. Just raise the turn.
His river bet was ludicrous.
Right.
For the record, I think I said the only two cards I was folding if he shoved were Jack, King, or Diamonds.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would have called the shove, but, you know.
Yeah, so given what we know now, so we raised pre-flop. He defended wide, which we expected. Mm-hmm. We didn't see bet the flop, so that we don't learn anything about his flop play. But now that we know he led this gutter twice on the turn and river.
For the same amount.
Right. I think we can kind of update our read that he's not as passive as we thought he was. And we can play better against him in the future. And I think that's, whenever I'm coaching guys, that's the main thing I harp on. It's like if you see a showdown, you need to reverse engineer that guy's strategy and use it against him in the future, because most people at small stakes aren't going to say to themselves, oh man, I just took this line with a bluff, so I need to make sure I take it with value next time. No, whatever they did last time, they're probably going to do it again. Okay. And if they were good enough to balance, then they probably wouldn't be playing these stakes. So
The sad thing is Steve didn't win this tournament because he was drinking so much water he had to go to the bathroom for a 9.5 minute piss.
I got second.
And he kind of blinded down there a little bit.
I reviewed the tournament. I recorded it with Camtasia because there's no HUDs, and then I watched heads up. I'm like, how did I not win this thing? I went in, I think I had 220K, and the other guy had like 150 or something, and there was a spot I had him. I set it up, and he reshipped light. I called with pocket eights. He had queen deuce, and then he hit a queen on the turn, and then we were down to just a few big blinds and never recovered. But
that sounds unlucky to me.
Yeah, that was a bummer. But
I think we inadvertently played this hand perfectly.
We definitely got max value for what he had.
Yeah.
I felt against the range of hands that he had, we probably could have played it better. Results oriented, you're right. We couldn't have got another nickel out of him, but I don't know. I just felt like my main question here is I wrote any value in raising on the river, but I think the real thing is we gotta. I like your guys' click it back on the turn. I think that's pretty slick.
Yeah, the one benefit. Let me think. I'm shocked that he's betting this turn with just a naked gutter. But forgetting that we know that the one benefit to raising the turn is he may call with a hand like this, whereas if you just shove the turn, he's definitely not.
Yeah.
So that's one benefit to the click it line that Mike suggested.
And hands like king queen, queen jack.
See, against those hands, I'd rather shove than click it because I think he calls with those. Well, not king jack. Well, king jack beats us.
Oh, I'm sorry. King queen and queen jack.
Yeah, a pair and a gutter. He may find a call. Maybe he puts us on a flush draw, and call with a hand like that. So I want to get all of it versus those hands, and that's why I suggested shoving turn. But shoving turn doesn't get value from the naked gutters like the jack sevens. So the clicking it may get value from a wider range of hands he's leading on his turn. So, that's probably a better line here.
Well, Stevie, I need to run. I don't know if you guys want to do one more hand. I gotta
bounce.
I must say adieu.
Okay, all righty.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up. We're at about an hour and a half now, and I gotta bounce as well. Got to make a Costco run. Go get some provisions.
Cool.
But right on. Well, thank you guys for coming on. If I'm going to be gone for like 5 days straight at work, Carlos, but if you're up in the area, after that, you're more than welcome to stop by. I got a futon here. I got a blow up mattress I can blow up for you.
I should tell you, Steve, he wakes up in the morning, he gets me out of bed and shakes his fist and says, "Omelet now." I'm just saying, there's a different side of Carlos we don't see on the podcast here. He's, very entitled.
Very demanding.
Steve knows I don't eat eggs.
Oh, okay.
Right. Well, if you want to come up, you're more than welcome. If not, that's okay too. But
I'm gonna be up in that way. I'm gonna be up in that area today, and today only. So if you're gonna, you won't be around today.
No, not today. No.
Okay.
Carlos is washing his hair, Steve. Just take him. Just get the point here. Come on.
Right on. Well, thank you guys for coming on, and you guys have a good rest of the week.
You too, Steve.
Alrighty, and thank you for tuning in. Here is your weekly motivational speech.
Take a moment to think of your life as if you were the author of your own story. Every day, you are writing your story that others will see, and you get to decide what type of character you're going to be. Despite all the challenges that arrive in your life, you get to decide who you are going to be and what you are going to be remembered for. You don't decide what challenges arrive, but you do decide how you're going to react to them. You do decide how you're going to show up every day. And you do decide if you're going to step up or step down, to show courage or to be a coward. You, my friend, are the author of your own story, and you get to decide who you are going to be. Become the hero you've always been searching for. You see, you have an opportunity. You have a choice and a decision to make. And in every breath that you take and in every heartbeat that you make, you can either move forward towards your dreams or you can move back and start slowly dying. What decision are you going to make?